Jesus Freak here, and in case you thought I was going a little crazy with the video game videos, I faced an attack on Facebook, of course. This happens every so often. This time it was over the so-called Mandela effect, and about the idea that the King James Version has changed in certain respects. And, well, yes, it's changed, but not in the way they're talking. You see, over the first few hundred years, there were probably as many variations as there were printers, and over time things started getting standardized. And over the last maybe 10-15 years or so, as the different companies started working with the same people on their typesetting and editing, the text started to converge. Holman's text started reading more like a Cambridge text than the traditional Oxford text. Heck, even Oxford's texts are now reading like Cambridge texts. The Oxford Ruby, which R.L. Allen still prints, and Oxford is a paperback edition. These are Cambridge texts, and Holman's text is starting to resemble a Cambridge text. I haven't checked any of the more recent UK Denmark settings. There used to be very distinct Nelson and Zondervan texts. The Nelson version has been coming closer to the Cambridge text, and there's no distinct Zondervan text. I'm holding here a Zondervan Comfort Print King James Version Bible. It is literally a Thomas Nelson text block that says Zondervan on the title page instead of Nelson. It is literally the same as the corresponding Thomas Nelson block. And I've checked. But when they're talking about this, they're talking about, oh, this word used to be this and now it's that. And I think Occam's razor comes into play here. You know, the explanation that relies on the fewest assumptions is the most logical, or the simplest explanation is usually the best. And in this case, you think it's more likely that we're periodically phasing from one reality into another, or that people's memories are faulty and they're relying on the memories of other people who are also faulty. The fact is, over the course of the 20th century, a lot of churches moved away from the King James, especially in the second half with the RSV, the NASB, and especially the NIV. And a lot of the things that they're misremembering as being the King James, they're remembering from one of these three. But they think they're remembering from the King James because King James is the gold standard, so to speak. They're just confusing the one for the other because, well, it's the standard, it's what they must have used. But they're making an assumption that might not necessarily be true. And when you take away that assumption, the whole house of cards falls over. The most likely explanation is they're remembering someone reading from the RSV, the NASB, or the NIV. And they mistakenly assumed it was a King James. But I had someone attack me saying that I was making a mockery of him because I didn't believe in a fringe conspiracy theory. And I wasn't progressive because I didn't believe in a fringe conspiracy theory. And I made it pretty obvious I'm a little bit more on the left wing than a lot of people watching my videos. And I'm like, look, I'm sorry you can't deal with reality. You have to come up with this wacky explanation because you can't deal with the simple whole truth. There's a saying, you're entitled to your own opinion. You're not entitled to your own facts. The ideas they're relying on, it's just bunk. Jesus freak out.